You live in a third dimensional world, what the mystics call the land of the opposites. There's a fourth dimension consciousness that is higher than all of it and yet includes all of it, that can guide you, that can make you aware, that can help you see beyond the third dimension. Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm here today in my studio and just absolutely honored to welcome you into the show today with me. It is a special day because of who we're honoring today. And I want to bring my producer in, Mr. Sean Kilgore, to be a part of the show because he plays an important part as well.
Thank you so much. And I am honored to be a part of this show for sure and to support your message. So friends, welcome in. This is episode 414 of Experience of the Soul. As always, we are so glad you're here. This episode is part 2 of our soul growth and evolution as we continue to honor spiritual teacher, author, and dear friend of Cynthia Alice, Jane Elizabeth Hart. But up first this week, this week offers up some strong messages for us, starting with the fact that you're more connected than you think.
Yeah.
So on Friday, So Friday, May 29th, the Baha'i community observes the ascension of Baha'u'llah. So this is honoring the passing of the founder of the Baha'i faith. This is a day that is a day of prayer and reflection. But at the heart of it, it's really about unity and the deeper truth that we're not as separate as we feel sometimes.
Amen.
Right? So we want to lift our Baha'i friends during this sacred time for them. They got a lot going on, but we talked about the Baha'i faith the past couple weeks in a row. Those
people need to give me, I don't know. I feel like we should be paid for an ad for the Baha'i faith at this point.
Right? All right. We are also reminded this week that what survives shapes us.
Amen. Yeah.
On Saturday, May 30th, Trinidad and Tobago observes Indian Arrival Day, marking the arrival of the first Indian indentured laborers in 1845. So they brought with them their culture, their traditions, their spiritual practices, and those things that endured for them. So this is the story of resilience. It's really about faith and identity continuing forward, even through really difficult and hard times. Right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we honor all of those who reflect on this history and its meaning.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that. Yep.
Yeah. We also are asked this week, what if we knew that some habits aren't helping you?
Oh boy. Is it yes to life or no to life? As I love to say.
I love it. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. On Sunday, May 31st, we recognize World No Tobacco Day. So while this is centered on physical health, there is something deeper here to, awareness, choices, and how we care for ourselves on a day-to-day basis. It's a moment to pause and to ask whether the things we're holding on to are actually, and as you have said before, is this helping you? Is it supporting you? Or is it hurting you?
Is this helping me or is this hurting me? Well, yeah.
Yep.
Real support. I love when you give my quotes back to me.
Oh, yeah. I got a book of them.
I was like, I like that.
All right. And our Just for Fun this week asks or lets us know that you're more creative than you think, right? So Saturday is also National Creativity Day. So creativity isn't just art. It's how you think. It's how you solve problems. It's how you express yourself. So maybe take a moment this week and create something. Just because it feels good to do it.
I love that. Go, my favorite, go outside and whittle.
Anything,
oh, I should, I'll bring to you the thing I whittled recently.
Oh, that's cool. Was that on your recent trip you whittled?
No, I was just at home.
Oh, okay. Just at home. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Whittled.
I can't wait to see it. We'll have to share it with everybody. We'll have show and tell on the next episode. On the next episode of Experience of the Soul.
RCA's whittling.
It was just a whole episode of you whittling.
Somebody would watch it.
Yep,
somebody would have something to say about my technique, I'm sure.
I'm sure, right? Because everyone's got something to say, right?
Yeah.
All right, friends, let's get to our journal prompt for this week. It's time to let something go. So, what am I ready to release, and what feels more true for me now? What are you ready to release, and what feels more true for you when you do so? You can take that into your journaling for the week. And with that, I am honored to welcome you officially to episode 414 of Experience of the Soul, Soul Growth and Evolution, honoring in loving memory of Jane Elizabeth Hart.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, it's fun for me to talk about Jane Elizabeth, and it's amazing she made her passing just April 4th, early April this year, and was born in 1933, and really has been such a tremendous influence on my life and on my ministry. I would say she's had the single most influence of any teacher over the longest period of time. I worked with her for many years, and her work and her consciousness continues to bless me after she's left the physical form. So, Jane Elizabeth, we love you and we bless you, and I honor you today with these teachings. I wanted to share with you all some of the teachings, and as I said last week, if you've been with me long, you've heard these in many different forms, but I wanted to bring a couple to the forefront, especially in her honor and memory. She would want me to do no less. And by the way, I should mention she has been on the show in the past and really enjoyed being with us. And she ran something called the Center for Enlightenment. Of course, the link is in the show notes if you want to look into it. The center is continuing. And, after her passing, she already had the leaders in place, but she was famous for saying, "The Center for Enlightenment is in you." The Center for Enlightenment is in you. It lives at the very heart and soul of you. We're going to get right into it. So, last week we had talked a little bit about desire and commitment, and then moving into change in a powerful way. And we had recently done a show on change, which I found interesting as well, because change is so much a part of the spiritual journey. And, growing up in church, I didn't hear of change in a positive way. And it was really Jane Elizabeth, that taught me the power of change uh, uh, as a very positive force in my life, in my growth and expansion, and what she loved to call your soul growth and evolution. And, that word evolution, it doesn't mean I don't believe in creation. It means that evolving means what? That I grow and change. So evolution is not a bad word if you're a Christian. It simply means you're moving forward and evolving. In other words, you are growing, but it does take effort. It doesn't happen automatically. So think about us as a species, even as we were many, let's say 100 years ago. We have people running faster. We have technology we didn't have. We have ways that we've evolved as a culture. And so this is what I mean, ways that we've moved forward past where we were. So I don't know the official definition of evolution. Probably Sean's already looking it up. But my point is, that this is what I believe we're called to do, to move forward in a much more expansive way, not forgetting what is behind, but growing into new areas and new ways of being. And what I learned from Jane Elizabeth was a little bit of a language around what happens on the spiritual journey as we get very serious about our soul journey, that we gain understanding through a really intensive meditation practice. I mean, that was the beginning of my awakening to my soul journey, was just spending time every day in silence. And I mean in silence, not with guided visualizations and walking meditations, as everybody talks about now. Those are all really good things. And I do some of those things. But the best meditation I know for centering, for quiet, for clear think. She often talked about moving into clear think is through connection with God. It's like we plug into the power center and we get filled up, as we meditate, meditate, meditate. She used to say to us, if you hear nothing tonight, hear me say these three words: meditate, meditate, meditate. It is your key to enlightenment. It is your key to enlightenment. And what she taught very specifically, she taught it in different words than how Jesus said it, but I loved it because what she said is, you live in a third dimensional world. And in that third dimensional world, there's what the mystics call the land of the opposites. There's good and bad, there's light, there's dark, there's up, there's down. But she says there's a fourth dimension consciousness that is higher than all of it and yet includes all of it. There's a fourth dimension consciousness that can guide you, that can make you aware, that can help you see beyond the third dimension. You did this, so I'm going to do that. Right. And so that land of the opposites that the mystics from the East have told us about, even Jesus talked about it just in a different way. He said, be in the world, but not of the world. In other words, you're going to exist in this third dimension consciousness. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm wrong, you're right. Up and down this push pull we all do. But there is a higher awareness and a higher reality here for us. And this is not only what Jesus taught, it's what the teachers of the East taught as well. It is what the Buddha taught. It is basically what Sai Baba and Yogananda had, this idea that there is a consciousness greater than this third dimension consciousness. Were you going to say something there, Sean?
I just had this for you. So the definition of evolution: change in the frequencies within a population over time, resulting in diversity at every level of organization.
Oh, that is interesting.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's I started to interrupt, but I did want to pop in just because of what the definition was. I thought, man, that's really yeah.
Change in the frequencies. That is amazing. Exactly. Yeah. It's like you start vibrating at a different frequency when you evolve forward. And isn't that true? Isn't that true? Yeah. It's interesting that you put this up here, Sean, because, we were just in, I should say, I was just at my son's college, and I always find college towns to have a certain frequency.
I totally get what you're saying. Yep.
Like there's cool coffee shops. There's always like some kind of fringe stuff but there's always this real like free thinking vibe. There's a real creative vibe,
Yes. I love that you're using the word vibe, because really that is vibration is what we're saying. Right. Exactly. And now vibe is such like a trendy thing to say, but what we're actually talking about is that feeling, that vibe. Yeah.
Yes. That
vibration. Rather.
Yeah. Vibration. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure, Sean, you've seen these experiments where they will take sand and put it on metal and then vibrate, the sound, and it'll go to a real specific shape on the metal given the vibration. And when the vibration goes higher, the things get more beautiful and intricate, And so anyway, yes. This is what we're talking about. Yes. Thank you, Sean. That's perfect. Yes. Not an interruption at all. In addition. So yes, this is what we're talking about, that there is a higher vibration available to us. And Charles Fillmore called it this too, fourth dimension consciousness. Many mystics have called it that we live in the third dimension, but the Christ consciousness is fourth dimension consciousness. It's where anything is possible. And so what Jane taught me is that through the soul is where we connect. So the soul is both guiding us in the here and now. It's aware of the here and now, but our soul is also attached to eternity. Our scriptures tell us our soul is eternal. And so our soul is guiding us, it is directing us, and yet it is the thing that accesses the higher realms and then brings it down in and through the mind. So, you can't think God. God is an experience. God is a knowing. You can read about God, you can study God, you can try to know God through the mind, but God is really known through experience. And Jane Elizabeth called this bringing down this fourth dimension consciousness that is ultimately already within us, but connecting from the higher mind that is God mind. And so when we begin to do this, we move from third dimension into fourth dimension. That's called living beyond the opposites. Living beyond the opposites. Remember, the opposites is the land of the third dimension, up, down, right, wrong, black, white, right? All those things, right, wrong, all of those things. As I was thinking about it today, it reminded me of a really beautiful quote from Rumi, which says, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And my friends, I find it interesting that all of the mystics are telling us the same message, basically, that there is this higher vibrational awareness. Some of us call it God, some of us call it fourth dimension, some of us call it Christ consciousness. But by and large, we're talking about the same spiritual energy that it like encompasses it all and yet is greater and higher than what we're experiencing here in the third dimension. And so the more we tap into this fourth dimension consciousness, the more we move out of the land of opposites and we can begin to detach from all the things that held us to this realm so much. I find that I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and I have found that as people age, they get less and less attached to things and more attached to family, less and less attached to money, more and more attached to what matters most. I find that interesting that as people age, they begin to detach from the physical. And what I know spiritually is that when we can move into some form of detachment from things, from having, and move more into being, that helps us move into a more enlightened awareness on the spiritual journey. So I believe very clearly that we are called to become enlightened. I don't believe that we're all going to do it this lifetime, but I think we're called to be enlightened beings. And that as we change and grow, as we evolve and expand, as our vibe, raises, as Sean was saying, that we begin to move into uh, a place of enlightenment, meaning we see things as they are, not as we hope them to be, that we see life from a higher perspective. And as we detach, it will help us move into something that Jane Elizabeth taught me that is definitely a teaching of the Eastern Hinduism as well, is the observer self, the observer self. And the idea of the observer self is that we not only are living life, but we can move into this place of observing our own self as we go through the day. Sometimes when I was early doing this, I'd have to sit at home and I'd get out my little pen, and I would say, well, this is what happened today. And I would write about it. And then as I would go back and read the journaling, I would see, oh, wait a minute. Let me think about this. And I would be able to observe myself in the interaction rather than be in all the emotion of it. And, when we get our emotions involved and we're trying to prove ourselves right, we are not in the observer self. We're in the land of the opposites. Now, emotions are windows into the soul. Emotions can help show us things, but emotions themselves are not the key to spirituality. They're not the key to enlightenment. But emotions will tell us this is a place of healing, or this is a place that needs healing, for us. So sometimes emotions will tell us, oh, we're happy. This feels good. Sometimes our emotions are saying something's off. So we can use the emotions on the spiritual journey in a very powerful way. But we don't want to be so attached to our emotions that we can't get in the observer self and see what part am I playing in this. So I want to encourage you to begin to think about the observer self. Like when you made a decision, what went into that decision? When you were in an argument, what part did you play in the argument? And as you start to develop this way of seeing, yourself in your life, it becomes less about what everybody else is doing and who do I and becomes instead, who do I want to be in this interaction? Who do I want to be in this interaction? Not who done me wrong, because that's going to happen, my friends. People are going to do you wrong. And your work as a soul, your work on the spiritual journey as a soul that is growing and evolving is not to react and get stuck in the emotions in the land of the opposites. You did this, you did that. But it's to rise above and say, okay, where am I in this? What does this have to do with me and my journey? And then I get to make a new decision for myself. So I'm not worried about what you're doing. Instead, I'm thinking, how am I responding to this? Because there are certain things in life you cannot prevent. We're human. People are going to do things. All of us are going to be lied to. All of us are going to be betrayed in some way. All of us are going to wish things didn't happen that happened. And so you have to see that until you get into the observer self, you are a prisoner in the land of the opposites. So the observer self helps us rise above and look down on life in a different way. And then we begin to look at life reflectively instead of reactively. It's like, wow, I really got angry about this, or this really hurt me. I wonder why I let someone else's opinion be that jarring to myself, or why I took that on. And I discover, you know what? This is a place of healing for me. This is a place I need to do some healing work. And then I journal on it, and then I meditate on it. And then, so you see, my friends, all these things work together that I'm speaking of here. The third and fourth dimension. The third dimension is the land of opposites. The fourth dimension is the place of Christ consciousness, where anything is possible. Detachment helps me move out of these attached spaces, these emotions, and I can move into the observer self, remembering that sometimes I have to do my little journaling, sometimes I have to pray on it and meditate on it. Sometimes it's all the above. But what I can assure you is that as you seek to do this work in the observer self, what's going to happen is you're going to be guided, you're going to be helped, and I want to assure you that God is always working on your behalf in this. And the more you do it, the more you're going to be able to do it as the situation is happening, instead of having to wait till the weekend and do a lot of journaling and work. You're going to be able to see it easier and easier. You're going to be able to see yourself in situations. And my friends, you're going to be able to save yourself a lot of hassle. You're going to be able to save yourself a lot of heartache, depression, anxiety, because you are moving into a higher connection, what we love to term enlightenment. That there are places in your life, probably you're already knowing some level of enlightenment, and you're going to be ready to go next step, next step, next step, as you can move out of this land of the opposites and into the observer self. But I want to talk lastly today on a couple things. One is working with rather your intuition. And your intuition is very simply the voice of your soul. And as you move forward on the journey, what will happen is that your intuition starts to kind of knock on your door a little bit. It starts to get your intuition, get your attention rather. Some of us will feel our intuition working in our mind. It'll be like this thought that comes in. We say, I wonder where that came from. For some of us, it will be this just intense, knowing. Sometimes people will say, oh, I just knew in my gut that was mine to do. Some people tell me, it was like I heard a voice tell me to go this direction or do this. I had just this experience recently. I want to share it super quickly because it was so powerful that I was going to be gone. As I mentioned, I was up visiting my son at college. And before leaving, I'm always very conscious about who I choose to speak when I'm gone, because depending on what's going on in the congregation or what healing needs there might be, I always ask Spirit for guidance as to who would be the best fit. And the person I was really guided to, I talked to my board president. She said, "Oh yes, she'd be perfect." Well, then the feedback I got after before I even arrived home was so good that I knew I chose the right person. I've already heard again today. By the way, the person you had speak was amazing. It was exactly what I needed to hear. And so I mention all this to you because working with your intuition is fun because you will start to get feedback when you're right on track. And spirit will guide and spirit will direct. And we'll talk more about intuition, in future shows. I just wanted to lift that up as a necessary part of you deepening your journey. Sometimes you're going to be guided to do a thing, whether it's through a knowing, a feeling, hearing a voice. You're going to be guided to do a thing, and you're not always going to know why. And that's a good indication it is your intuition, because the intuition has bypassed the mind. It's like it goes right to the feeling state, right to this sense of knowing, right to the soul. And this is an important aspect for you to be aware of as you're seeking to move forward on the journey. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one of the key pieces Jane Elizabeth shared with me over the years, and that is the understanding of karma. Jane Elizabeth would say, everything in your life right now is a result of your past karma. And I absolutely believe our own Bible uh, confirms this. Our Bible says, forgive and you will be forgiven, judge and you will be judged, and it is done unto you as you believe. You know, this is the law of karma being explained. And the law of karma simply is the law of cause and effect. That which I put out is what I'm going to receive back. And so, what she would say is the good news is now that you know it is karma, be about creating and doing not only good in the world, but dedicating every action you have to God. Because when you dedicate your action to God, you move into the highest state, which is no karma. So, my friends, if you don't like your life right now, the good news is you can change it by shifting how you walk through the world, by shifting, the karmic play you're choosing to live in right now. Not every argument you're in, not every disagreement has to have a winner. Not every move forward has to end the way you think it will. Karma has a way of showing us where we are, and we then have a choice. Do I want to continue this behavior, or do I want to power up, level up, and move into that higher fourth dimension awareness of the Christ energy, to move into that higher spiritual consciousness and instead live from there? And that's when we begin to heal our karma, as we forgive, as we let go of the past, as we let go of everybody doing it right, as we let go of thinking we can tell the world how they're supposed to be. You see, so when we understand we are karmic beings, that what we do in the world has a large impact outside of our own lives, even that it goes out as an energy, and that everybody we come into touch with, in communication with, in relationship with, everyone we talk with and relate with via email or phone call or text, all these relationships have what are called karmic implications. That what we do, what we say matters. What we do, what we say will come back to us. So, my friends, give this some thought. Give this some thought. Jane had created something many years ago called the karmic scoreboard. If I can find that, Sean, I'll send it to you for the show notes. But the karmic scoreboard is where you would take a sheet home every week and look at all the things you did that helped your karma. And it was great. It was like forgive, hug, smile, be in joy, take spiritually guided action. So it was a lot of fun. And my friends, I hope you will know that the spiritual journey is fun. It is exciting. It is amazing to live in the flow of good, to live from this fourth dimension consciousness is a total gift to your soul. And being able to rise above this third dimension consciousness and really experience God in the everyday is truly a blessing to my life and soul. And I hope it for you too. I know you're experiencing it. I know you're doing your soul work. I know you're seeking to live a spiritual life. So I want to support you in that. I want to inspire you to do more and good and be in the holiness of your own sacred journey. So, my friends, thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping me honor Jane Elizabeth Hart, born December 30th, 1933, hard to believe, and made her passing on April 4th, 2026. So thank you, Jane Elizabeth. My friends, yeah. Thank you for listening. Blessings. Blessings on the journey.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Experience of the Soul with Cynthia Alice Anderson. If this message resonated with you, we invite you to share it with someone who might need it today. This show is made possible by listeners like you, and we're grateful for the community that helps keep these conversations available to all. You can learn more or contribute to the show at cynthiaaliceanderson.com/donate. Produced by Kilgore Creative and a production of the Soulworks Group Incorporated. Until next time, take good care.